Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't got no time now. You on the way. I'm doing fine.
Listen up, listen up. It's the Poet Life Podcast. It's Christoph Wrights, one half of the Poet Life Podcast, J. Rod D. He is not here on tonight, but he is here in spirit. And we have our newest member of the Poet Life Podcast, Kelsey Bigelow. Kelsey, how are you?
Good. How are you? I'm excited.
I am excited as well. I know you all listening and watching are like, huh? What do you mean? You're going to have 3 hosts? So listen, we are expanding, right? We are ever growing, and it's so crazy. Was it episode 3? Was it episode 3 with Bianca Jackson?
Yeah.
LinkedIn episode?
It worked.
Yes. Listen, when I tell you.
Bianca, it worked.
How many weeks ago? That was several weeks ago that we had Bianca Jackson, the LinkedIn expert, on our podcast, and she explained, what was the title? How to grow your poetry brand on LinkedIn. And she was telling us the different benefits of being an artist on LinkedIn. And most people thought that LinkedIn was simply a digital resume platform for the longest. That's all I used it for, right? And she was like, no, like it is. LinkedIn is the Facebook for professionals, and you're a professional artist, right? I was like,
yeah.
Okay, all right. And so she was saying that you can make so many connections on LinkedIn. You can do that on Facebook, but more so socially on Facebook. But LinkedIn, folks are not on LinkedIn to socialize. They're making connections. They're networking. They're looking for their next, obviously, job, but also their next project. And colleague and partner. And Miss Kelsey here, I'm gonna let you start. You start.
Well, let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
I was listening. I honestly think I found Poet Life because I was following a hashtag on Instagram for a totally different reason, because I used the Poet Life hashtag I had no idea you guys existed. And then I started listening to your episode, specifically the one about LinkedIn. And I am a marketer by day. Like I manage social media and blogs and all of these things. And I was like, yeah, that's what LinkedIn is for connecting all of this. And I wrote a blog post on my own website about that episode, and I shared it on LinkedIn, as one does. And then you liked it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm fangirling. Like, the Poet Life found my blog post. And then we connected, and it opened up opportunities, and it works. That's what LinkedIn is for building these connections.
Yeah. You know what? So that same night, so to go ahead of that, before that same night, I literally jumped on LinkedIn that same night, the night of the recording of that podcast episode. And because what she was saying was just like, oh my God, what have I been missing? And so I quickly made a separate business personal page for myself, right? I have a 9-to-5, what I call it, a 9-to-5 page,
yep.
Right? My resume page. But I made a separate page because I didn't want to bleed over my artistic creative side with that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want my boss calling me saying, oh, what's Poet Life? I don't have time for that, right? Yeah. And so, right, so I created that page. Then I started to post some of the podcast episodes, and then you commented.
Yeah.
That's how it started. You commented, and it was one of those nights where, you know, a lot of people see you what you're doing, and they're like, man, you're doing some great things, and so on and so forth. But one of those nights, just like, I don't think I'm doing anything. Like, you know, I don't feel it, you know. And then I got a notification on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, I am doing something. We are doing something. This thing is working. And I showed it to my wife. I was like, read this, you know, and I was like, man, this is why we are doing what we're doing, you know. And then I inboxed you the next day, and then we just started to talk and build. And then you did yeah.
And I was stoked because I've been on LinkedIn for a long time, just as a professional, and I have been searching for poets on LinkedIn to connect with on that professional level, because it's like, there's got to be a way to make this a living, right? Like there's got to be a way. And I was losing hope. And then I found the podcast, and then I saw you were on LinkedIn, and I was like, my people,
right?
I found you. And I was so happy, and it worked. And you messaged me the next day, and you're like, hey, I have an opportunity. And I was like, how do I feel about this? And I was like, you got to jump. You can't not. And my fiance was like, you can't pass that up.
Yeah.
You have to jump on it. Just try.
Yeah. Cause I'll have ideas of expansion. Right. But I won't know who it's for, who's going to be the person to like man it, you know, but I'll have the idea, and then I'll like put it on the side. I'll put it on the back burner until, you know, what I say, God starts to move on it. And when the opportunity finds me, or, you know, I find the opportunity, all right, let's move on it. So that's what happened. And here we are. Been working in the back office. Kelsey is, all right, so you're the blog director. What are we saying? What's
I don't know, whatever you want to call me. I don't know, blog manager.
So I'm gonna tell you. So Kelsey is our third host, but she is the literary side of the podcast. She's on the same level as myself and J Rod D, right? You see us, and you hear us. You'll see us on YouTube. You hear us wherever you listen to podcasts, but you'll read her words on the blog, on thepoetlife.com/blog.
Yeah. And it started because I know I'm not the only person who isn't on the podcast train like everybody else. I don't know how. I mean, Poet Life is the only podcast I've actually listened to and enjoyed and stayed with. And so I know that there are people who are like me and want to read it. And so that's the purpose of this, is to reach more people.
Yes. It's not a transcript. It's not a transcription of the podcast. It is Kelsey the summarizing with personality and all of her skill sets in regards to being a professional writer. So you're going to get some great writing. And she's also going to give us a little video synopsis of what she wrote. So you're going to get a lot, you know, and we're really excited about it. And so this is her episode. I don't know what we're titling it, but we're going to go in and we're going to learn about Kelsey and her journey into the poet life, not just the company, but just the life of being
literal
a poet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So Kelsey, let's start. Where and when did you start writing poetry?
So that's always a fun question.
Mm-hmm.
I even filmed a video of it when I was like doing this little series on my page. And the true answer is I started writing poetry back in like 6th grade when you first learn what poetry is. And it's like very metered and everything rhymes. And I am not a rhymer. I don't have that skill. And so I just didn't do it. I was like, this is awful. I can't do it. So I'm not going to do it. And then by 7th or 8th grade, I think it was 8th grade, we were learning the prepositions. And for some reason, I was like, oh, I'll just work them into a poem and then I'll memorize them. And it worked. And I still actually, there's like a notebook back here that has that poem in it.
Nice.
And it's the one that's kind of started the traditional, I was writing for myself. I didn't share it with anyone. It was teenage angst stuff. But it really started becoming serious for me when I went into college and I was taking an intro to creative writing class. And we had the poetry session, or the poetry module. And that was my sophomore year of college. And that semester, my mom had passed away from cancer. And before that, I was writing crappy teenage angst.
Right.
And then after that, I was channeling my grief into poetry. And that triggered something. My writing completely changed, and it actually became impactful. And I won, actually, a short story that I wrote had actually won that semester in our competition that we have every year. But after that, the rest of my school year the rest of my college years was building this portfolio of poems that were my way of getting through the grieving process. And it was messy. It was happy. It was sad. It was angry. It was who knows what, because grief is never easy. And that's kind of where it started. It actually formed that book back there that I have on.
Grab that book. Grab that book. Come on. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. It's called Sprig of Lilac. I released it on the 4-year anniversary of losing my mom.
Wow.
It's on Amazon, or you can just message me at CalKB Poetry or email, whatever, and I can get you copies.
And that was Sprig of Lilac?
Sprig of Lilac, inspired by Walt Whitman's poem, When Lilacs in the Dooryard Bloom.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I moved to Des Moines after graduation, and I had never read my poetry out loud. I read it out loud, just not on a stage, like in a performance. And I was desperate for finding a poetry community. And I was like, I'm in the middle of Iowa. Is there a poetry community here? And I found it, and there is. It's a great community. Shameless plug out to my Des Moines poetry fam. But I made the mistake of meeting the founder of the Des Moines Poetry Slam. And so she made me get on stage that day, and I was like petrified. And then after I performed, I was still petrified, but I was going to do it for the rest of my life. It's exhilarating. So that's kind of how I became a page poet and a spoken word poet and kind of a slam. I'm not as competitive as most slam poets, so it's like, okay, I only got third. That's fine. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got here to this poet life.
Okay.
I got many more books in the works, for the record.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. So 6th grade. All right. So where do you see you? All right. So you said that you were on LinkedIn and you were trying to find, community basically of not just poets, but poets that are exactly professional poets, right? What are you trying to do with it?
Who knows? I think when I was looking on LinkedIn, I think it's just, I always have in the back of my head that there's this, I hesitate to say the word calling, although I've definitely used it in poems all the time. But it's something, when you find a poetry community and you can have those poetic conversations where you're talking about style and word choice and line breaks and enjambment and all these things, it's just so exhilarating, and I feed off of it. And I think for me, I've always been around people who don't care for it to be their whole life. They don't identify directly as a poet. Even at work, like I don't have a separate LinkedIn account because I'm a storyteller, no matter how that comes out. And even at work, I tell people first, I'm a poet. And then I'm like, oh, you mean what do I do for money? Right now, this is what I'm doing.
What's my bill payer? Yeah.
And then I had no idea that there were people who were making a living doing poetry. Like in my mind, people like Rudy Francisco are getting paid, but like I just imagine most of his money is coming from anything else.
Yeah.
And then I found Poet Life podcast, and I was like, there's people doing this? What? Why? Yeah. Where's the industry? You're building it. That's where it is.
Yes.
So I don't know where I'm going with it. And I kind of don't want to know. I want to see where it takes me. And right now it's taking me here.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. And, if you're listening, if you're watching, as you can see, we are being very intentional about, uplifting the poetry community, but building the poetry industry. That is our mission on this podcast. And if you are on the same path and the same mindset as us, we encourage you to reach out. Go to thepoetlife.com and let us know what you have to bring to the table. Kelsey, she writes. She's a professional writer, and we had a need for a professional writer to help us expand our reach, because there are people that don't listen to podcasts. They would rather read. And so now we have a third dimension to the podcast. You're watching the first, you're listening to the second, and you'll be able to read the third. And so let us know what you all can do with us and for us. So I'm really excited, because by the time this is shown, as a matter of fact, it will be October 1st, right?
Yep. My favorite month.
Yes. And listen, October 25th is my birthday.
October 15th is mine.
Hey, yeah.
Same wavelength.
There we go. Good stuff. Love it. Love it. And as a matter of fact, same wavelength. You just closed on a house the other day. I just closed on a house the other day. You just moved in your house. I'm moving this weekend.
We're in the same life, different parts of the country.
Love
same
it.
Life.
Yes. As far as expansion, right? I really see us doing so much more than what we're already doing.
Me too.
Yes. And you were telling me you have some ideas, and again, to everybody listening and watching, what we do here is link up with people that are ready to take on something and make it their own. So Kelsey's making the blog her own, right? It's not me saying, "Hey, Kelsey, can you write this?" That she's flowing and going and say, "Hey, this is my vision for it, and I'm blessing it." And so I'm really excited about that, because it's just really hard, super hard. Like, as an entrepreneur, it's hard to find. It's not hard to find good people. People are inherently good, but it's hard to find good people on the same wavelength as you, because most people won't work as hard as you when it's not theirs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so when you find someone that you pass something to and they make it their own, man, that's very exciting. And I really appreciate you coming on board. I'm excited to see what we're going to do. And so you're listening and watching myself and J Rod D. But wait till you listen and watch and read Kelsey's writings and Kelsey, what's one idea out of the many that you think that we can do with this blog and this podcast?
So many. I would say one. Oh God, I can't pick one. I guess the biggest one that we've talked about is books, and not notice I'm pluralized that.
We'll say it again. You broke up.
Oh, sorry. Is ebooks.
Yes.
And I pluralized that.
Yes.
Multiple.
Yes.
Essentially, we can become the creators of the textbook to do poetry for a living, but about build the textbook for the industry.
Yes.
And these blogs can feed into that to where we go deeper. That's one idea.
That's good. We're not gonna give y'all too much, but listen. So
what's down the line?
Yeah, the main thing what we're trying to get across is you as a poet are more than a poet.
Mm-hmm.
You are a playwright. You are an author. You are a commercial writer. Like, you have a way with words.
Yes.
Right? And companies have
do conferences.
Yes. Companies have messages that they need to get out. And they don't have people with words. They don't have people that are good with words. And so they need to come to poets because we have a way with words.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to tell people, even during my college years when I was a professional writing major, or English major for generalization. People are like, what are you going to do with an English degree? You're going to teach? I'm like, no, I don't have patience for a school. But I always tell people, I'm going to do whatever I want. Every company in every industry needs a communicator.
Yes.
And not no one, as a generalization, most people can't communicate as effectively and in many layers and as critical thinking as poets. We have to be concise but deep.
Right.
And we have that.
Yeah.
And yeah. You can do whatever you want.
Definitely. And that's one of the main things we were trying to push on the podcast is for poets to see themselves as just more than just someone who writes poems.
Yeah.
You know, we are the narrators for movements.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, it's so much with it, and we're just going to show you. You know, we're going to just show you with our actions. We're going to tell more as well, obviously as well. But the biggest form of impact is example.
Yep.
You know, just showing and
show, don't tell.
Yeah. It's because if all you're doing is telling and you're not doing any showing, it's not much of an impact. I need you to show.
Number one rule of writing: show, don't tell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So everybody listening and watching, we want you to go to the podcast. I'm sorry, the blog right now. Well, after you finish listening to us. But I want you to take a look and see the difference between the podcast and the blog. I think you're going to like both, because you might even want to read the blog first and listen afterwards, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Yeah, because Kelsey's take on it is going to be awesome. As you can tell, her personality is awesome, and you'll be able to feel her personality in her writing, right? And so let's get back to you, Kelsey. Why English major? What was the prompt for that?
Oh my God, that was so long ago. Honestly, I grew up as a dancer, and I was a dance teacher, and I wanted to go to school for dance.
Okay.
But I didn't necessarily have the community around me to support me in any creative endeavor. I was also very into music. I grew up in choir, and I was doing music theory, and I was like, okay, maybe if they're not going to support dance, what about music? And then it still didn't pan out. But I always knew that I was a decent writer. Essays were my favorite thing in the world, and I was like, okay, let's go with that. And so I did start college as an English education major for secondary ed, to be a high school English teacher. And I made it as far as observing in the schools, and was instantly, nope, not for me. Don't put me in a classroom. And then one of my English professors, her name was Marianne. She changed her last name. It was Marianne Miley now. I don't know. She's an author. She's fantastic. She was also like an international model. I looked up to her. She like lived a life. And so I stopped by her office one day, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to be an education major, but what do I do with just an English degree? And she was like, have you heard of our professional writing program? And I was like, no. And it basically sets you up to be able to write for businesses, science writing, tech writing, all of different kinds of writing. The majority of the classes that I took were creative writing. I think I took almost every creative writing class we could. I would have majored in it, but they didn't offer it. It was just a minor. So I think it's like the messy way I got there. I don't think I've gotten anywhere super clean by the book. I don't even know how I ended up in marketing. I had every intention of going into publishing, but I ended up in marketing.
That's the path to success, though.
Yes, it is not the one you expect.
Exactly. That is the path to success. I know you saw that meme where it shows a description of the path to success, and then it's like a zigzag map,
Yep.
That is so true. I've had every type of business that you can name, just because I didn't necessarily have any entrepreneurial surroundings, growing up. And so I'm just, for 30 years, I'm just trying to figure it out, and going after every idea that I've had, and just hopping from one to the next, and till I came back to what I knew I loved, and that is poetry. I just didn't know. Well, everybody told me there was no money in poetry. So I was like, I'll continue to write, but I'm not going to pursue it as a business.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Was.
That's where you were. Yes. Totally. And we're going after it now. The biggest part about entrepreneurship is adding value to people. And that's what we're doing. Yeah. And if you figure out what your purpose is, right? And then you figure out how to add value to other people in the lane of where your purpose is, then you win.
That just reminded me that I wrote down my why a
Wow.
couple years ago. And it's essentially to be the motivator and mentor that people don't always get through communication and storytelling. However that comes out.
It's coming out.
It's coming out.
Yeah. And people can actually read it right now.
Yes, go read it.
Go read it right now and share it. And you know, and I want to get this across to the people that we're not trying to convince you to, you know, help us grow and this, that, and the third. You know, what we're doing isn't for us. You'll see this, what we're doing is for the community of poets, the industry of poets, and because poetry is still in its infancy, even though poetry has been here since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
There's poetry in the Bible.
Yeah.
The Psalms, that's poetry. You
and
know,
like those classic poets we read, they weren't just poets. They were essayists and journalists and businessmen, like men and women. Like they were not just poets.
exactly.
We can be now.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they figured out how to mesh the two and get paid for their poetry, the older poets back in the day. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I was never really good at remembering the life of poets.
Right. Me neither. I never really got into.
I'm not a history buff.
Yeah.
So it didn't stick in my brain. But I feel like the majority of classics, whether it's poetry or novelists, they weren't famous in their time.
Right.
Their stuff became famous after they passed.
Right.
And so probably not.
Right.
Which is why we don't have an industry.
Wow. I didn't even look at it like that. Wow. I
was looking over at my classics shelf, like, no.
Right. Yeah. Who do you have on that shelf?
Let's see. We've got Emily Dickinson, Walt Whitman. I've got like huge like Norton anthologies of. I bought I like kept my textbooks because I love them. We got Shakespeare, but he was actually he was doing it, but that was plays. Harper Lee. Was Harper Lee only it was only in the last decade that Harper Lee passed away, wasn't it? And that's not poetry. I know my poetry shelf is over there. We got Robert Frost. Oh my goodness.
You got a nice list over there.
I got like this huge shelf. Nice. That's all poetry, and those are my novels over there.
I love it. That's one thing I'm excited about. When I move into the new house, I'm teaching my daughters how to value a library over their television.
Oh, I didn't have a TV until I met my fiance.
Yeah.
And now we have 3, and I'm like, it's not coming in my office. My books are here.
Yeah.
So there's something about books, it's comforting and it gets your brain going.
Mm-hmm. I initiated at my house, wake up and read. # wake up and read. So before they grab a tablet, iPad, whatever electronic device they have to wake up and read. That's the first thing they do.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah. They wake up and read. I wake up and run. That's the first thing I do. I before they wake up, I'm already back off 2 miles,
Nice.
So you're an author now.
Yes.
Did you
still coming to terms?
Yeah.
It's been 2 years now. 2 years. This
Did you
November
ever
will be
see
2 years.
yourself as an author? I mean,
No.
so
Until I started, I realized I had a manuscript. I
so
didn't.
so what prompted that? I know you said it was the anniversary of your mom passing.
Mhm.
What
So
made you believe that you could be an author?
I think what it was, so I had all these poems because I had assignments for class. Like I had the creative writing class, poetry writing class, manuscript workshop, advanced manuscript workshop. Like, and I was through those 3 years, I was only writing about grief because that's what I was experiencing. And I think after a while of seeing how it was impacting my classmates, I was like, I'm at a point where this is no longer about me getting through my grieving process, because I was at a point where it's not through it because you're never done grieving, but I was done writing about it, and I realized I had this collection that somebody else needs to read. Somebody else needs, because not everybody wants to go to a therapist. That's nothing against therapy. I go to therapy. It's wonderful, but not everybody is comfortable with that, and not everybody wants to have that conversation. They just want to know that they're seen and they're understood. And I realized like that's what my collection was doing, because it wasn't like my collection is not only my perspective. It's poems from my mom's perspective, poems from my dad's perspective, my brothers, my grandparents. Like it's what is it, polyvocality in it. And I think there's something in it for everyone. There's also some co-written pieces from one of my coworkers, who had this long list of thoughts he had when his mom was going through cancer, and he gave it to me to put into a poem. And there's a few poems that came out of that, and so it's his perspective too. And there's just something that can resonate with everybody and can get someone through those really hard days. And that was when I realized, like, this is no longer just for me. If it helps one other person, that's all I need.
What are the responses you're getting?
Oh man, it's died down a lot because it's been 2 years since I released it. But basically, there's been people. So there's people that you would expect that say like this, I went through something similar. This has really helped me, which is wonderful. But my favorite reaction was after a feature show, someone came up to me and asked if I could write down the name of the book and my name so he could look it up later, because he was like, I'm not in a place where I can read something really sad, but I know I'm going to need it. And so I was like, thank you, one, for recognizing not in a place to read something sad. Please don't make it worse for yourself. But that he could recognize that this was something that was going to help him. I think that's been one of my favorite reactions. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know. It's been people saying how visceral it is, how raw, and moving, but also just it's also kind of warm. Even though it's raw, it's warm. Yeah, those are other people's words, not mine.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it's been cool. It's still weird to me to think that like I'm a published author, but yeah.
So have you thought about, because I don't think I know anyone who writes for a living, as in who writes books for a living.
Like personally?
Yeah, like that's what they do. I know there are people out there. I know of them, but I don't know people.
I know one, and it's my professor, and I wish I could find her book at first. I haven't organized my books. I just put them on the shelf.
Let me take that back. I know Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds. Yes, he writes for a living. I know he speaks and everything else, but he has several awesome books out, actually. I mean, that's a lane as well.
It is a lane.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my lane.
Yeah.
Just because I do. What am I talking about? I do know. Oh my gosh, my old pseudo mentor from my last job. He's I think just released book 6 or 7. And he has made me realize that I don't think authorship is my lane, because he is on a contract with the publisher and he has to release a book so often. And if I'm under that kind of pressure to write a book that's still in my personality or my zone, it's not going to be good. It's going to be rushed, and I
with
like
the deadline.
This book took 4 years to write.
Mm.
And I have more books in the works, but they're just, I can't, I'm a person who, my poetry is best when I've written it, when I'm in the moment, when I'm in some of my strongest poems in that book, I wrote while I was broke down crying in the bathroom on the floor, like revised it later, but like, that's where it comes from. And it's just, it has to be organic for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it is a lane. And if you can do it, I'm talking to people, like if you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lane and it's very valid.
Totally. Definitely. The blog, right?
Yes.
I know that, and I think it'll be good, and you might already know, but there are blogs that are killing it, right? Just being blogs. I want us not only to, and we talked about this, to follow the podcast, but I also want us to build out the blog to feature poets, right?
Yeah.
Speak about the industry currently, futuristically, but also the past, and kind of be that hub to where, you know, the shade room where people go to get gossip. Well, in regards to poetry, that's where we want you to come and read about, you know, what you can do with your poetry. Also see some dope artists, some dope poets that are doing some major things. I mean, you're getting that on the podcast. But to be able to get their profile and the things that they're doing, we would love to have that as well. We have some brainstorming to do.
Yeah, I just wrote down. So if there's any like fellow marketers that are watching this, essentially our goal is to be the HubSpot of the poetry industry. So HubSpot is like my go-to blog for all things marketing. Yeah. And we should be that for the poetry industry. Yes. Definitely. So I had to write that down as like, that's the goal.
Yeah. it's writing down our list of ideas and goals and prioritizing, and then just chopping them down.
Yes.
You know, yeah. And we're accepting suggestions and, you know, because I know what I've been looking for 30 years, but what are you looking for, the reader, the listener, the viewer? What are you looking for? Kelsey's, she's trying to find her lane in poetry, right? And she is open to allowing it to happen, right? And so if you know specifically what it is that you're looking for, on maybe it's how to win with your anthologies, your chapbooks and things of that nature, you know, how to use your poetry to get into public speaking, to teach poetry, whatever it might be, connect with us and let's get into a Zoom. And let's talk about the possibilities. You know, I might have your answer. Kelsey might have your answer. You might have Kelsey's answer.
Yeah. We might be able to connect you to the person who does have your answer.
Exactly.
You never know.
Yeah. So, you know, I was actually thinking about connecting with our alumni guests and seeing if they would be interested in partnering with us to, obviously we have the master classes, right?
Mhm.
Where, the guests are the professors, and the viewers and the listeners are the students, if you will. But I would love to set up where people can RSVP to have a call, an
Panel.
actual call. Well, a panel too, but even with, just imagine you being able to go
Oh,
through us to set up a call and talk to Prentice Powell,
like
uh,
one-on-one.
one-on-one call, and
Okay.
pick their brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would, because the I went blank. What's the poet's name that you just brought up? Um, Shoot.
Rudy Francisco.
Yes, Rudy
Yeah.
Francisco. Just
If I could
imagine.
talk to Rudy Francisco, that'd be awesome.
Right. That's what I'm saying, right?
I'd learn so much.
Yeah, exactly. And so that way you don't have to wait 30 years to get your answers. You can
Mhm.
accelerate your learning curve and say, "Oh, wow, now I get it. This is how
Mhm.
I can do it." Yes, we're watching him do what he does, but you know, um show me the ABC 1, 2, 3, how you got
Mhm.
to where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be
Yeah.
awesome. I think that would be awesome. And I think they would be down for it. And because the folks that we're talking about, they're super, super down to earth. Just because you don't know them, doesn't mean they're up here lofty.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna brainstorm that out and formalize it. And when we reach out to them, we'll already have the program in place, and we'll just need to plug them in
Mhm.
um, for those calls. And I think that would help a lot of people and motivate them to do a lot more. Because again, we're going to need a lot more than just 5 poets winning,
Yes.
right? Rudy Prentice, Sean
Mhm.
William, we need hundreds and thousands of poets knowing where they're going with their poetry, knowing what they're doing, achieving goals and things of that nature. And that's how we build the poetry industry,
Yeah.
where we can name more than just 3, 4, or 5 poets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So we got some work to do, but we're starting here. We started with a podcast, and now we have a blog now. Again,
Yes.
go read it. And so we're and we started, well, season 2 started July 1st.
Wow.
Started July 1st. Here it is. Well, right now it's September 17th, my mom's birthday.
Happy
But
birthday.
yeah, I just came from her house celebrating her 66th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Love you.
Happy
And
birthday.
yeah, but as you all are watching and listening, it is October 1st when this drops. And so we want you all to connect with us, man. We need your insight. We need your questions, so we can figure out what you all are looking for. We want to provide it.
Mhm.
Again, we want to be that hub to where you don't have to go to Google. And because I went to Google. I've gone to Google for years and say, how can I literally type this in? How can I make money with poetry? And I've gotten write a chapbook. I've gotten
Mhm.
perform it, spoken word. I've
Yeah.
gotten what everybody's doing. But no one has ever said connect with a company and say, hey, I'm great with words. I can write your next commercial,
Yeah.
right? I can teach your students how to express themselves through poetry. When principals and administrators hear that, you
Yeah.
know, because they
They're on
know
board.
they're on board. Like, when can you start? And how much do
Mhm.
you charge?
Yeah.
Literally. I know, because we have Poet Life Academy, and we've done it. We've sat in offices with principals, been in 12 schools at one time, hiring poets to teach kids how to use poetry to express themselves, and to see the shyness disappear,
Oh, yeah.
right? And the anxiety go away.
Mhm.
And at the end of the series of workshops, they get up there in front of their kid peers and drop the mic like they're Obama. It's like, and their parents are like, "What did you all do to my child?" Like, he or she would not even stand in front of their family and speak,
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's the sky's the limit with this thing. And the fact that it's still in its infancy, it's untapped. So
Mhm.
when you present it to people, they're like, I've never
Mm.
thought of poetry like that.
Yeah.
Let's see what you can do with it, So and we're going to simply be the example, and show you. That's why we list out the things that we're doing. Like, we have Poet Life gear, right? And this
Yep.
is not bragging, it's just showing you, right? I literally specifically did that on purpose, right? The company's name is The Poet Life. But
Mhm.
when you come down the list of things that we do and present, it's Poet Life University, Poet Life Academy, Poet Life
Mhm.
Gear, soon
Mhm.
to be Poet Life Publishing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the
You can
ebook.
do so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
So
even think of
I'm just
write
excited.
that down.
I'm excited to see what Kelsey's going to do with the blog and the expansion of the blog. I'm excited.
Me too. We'll find out. We'll see where it goes. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
And you notice, folks, I said I'm excited to see what she's going to do, because I handed it over to her, and I'm allowing her vision to play out. She's not going off my vision. That blog piece is off my plate and into her hands, and she has capable hands. And you will see once you finish listening to this, because you're gonna go and read and see what I'm talking about. Um, Kelsey, before we get off this, um, if you could leave something for the people, what would you leave them with?
I think I would reiterate what I mentioned before, is that no matter your interests, you can do it. And if you are a fellow English major or a writer or that world, that poet, and people are telling you there's no money in it, you what are you going to do with that? You can do anything you want. You can make it happen for yourself. I'm doing it. Christoph's doing it. It's what we do. You can do it.
Indeed. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Look, man, life is good. Even
Yeah.
when we think it isn't, life is good because we're still alive.
Yes.
Simple as that, with this whole COVID thing. Listen, it's a miracle you're still here, period.
Yeah.
So do what you love and figure out how to monetize it. I'm gonna
Do
say
what you love is written on my laptop. Do what
that.
you love.
That's on your laptop.
It is. I don't think I can show you,
Oh no,
but
I
it's right
saw
there.
that in your stories. I did see
Yeah,
that.
it's on my it's
Yes,
all over my Instagram.
yes, yes, definitely. Let's do what you love. Like, stop making the excuse that, yeah,
Mhm.
but I need a job. That's cool. I have a job. I have a 9 to 5. Look,
Same.
we record these episodes at 9 o'clock at night. I have 3 kids. I have 3 daughters, 5 and under. I have bags under my eyes right now because I'm tired. I understand. I get it. And then I'm gonna wake up early and then I'm gonna run 2 miles. Like make the time. And for the longest, I was making an excuse for why I was so busy and why I don't have time and can't get out the house and all of this stuff. But if I say I'm going to live and live long, I got to do the things that's going to allow me to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So I go on tangents a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this episode off with everybody. Listen, it's the Poet Life Podcast. Do us a favor, do yourself a favor. Go to thepoetlife.com/blog. It's the Poet Life blog. And Kelsey is the writer, the blogger, she is who she is, and you'll see who we're talking about. We're going to give you a title. All right, let's give you a title now. Blog director, blog editor.
I'd say blog manager. If you're going to do director, it'd be manager.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But
it's like a common title.
She's the blog manager, but she again is the third member of the Poet Life Podcast because we value her that much. And again, we're going to do so much more with what we're doing. But before I go on another tangent, it's the Poet Life Podcast. Go to poetlife.com. Check out everything that we have going on. Go to poetlifegear.com. Get you some awesome gear. I saw your order.
I got that this morning.
I saw your order. I'm excited about it. I said, hey, Kelsey, come through. Awesome. So she's getting some, what was that? A long sleeve?
T-shirt and a sweatshirt?
T-shirt and a sweatshirt. Which design?
The Poet Life logo.
Gotcha. Both of them?
Or both. Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. All right, folks, you all have a great, and I'm just have a good night. Have a great weekend, whatever day it is that you're listening and watching us. But again, check out the blog. This is Kelsey Bigelow's episode to where we introduce to you for the first time ever the Poet Life blog. It's the Poet Life, folks. We appreciate you. Have a good night. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't get no time now. You in the way. I'm doing fine now. Out of my business. Find a way, find a way.